Well, hey, it's good to see you again. My name is Jada Ben, and welcome back to this YouTube channel of mine where the search party isn't over yet. On today's episode, we are doing 10 more metal records that I am in search of. This is a follow-up to a previous video that I did just about a year ago. We're going to go over some of those records that I have gotten since then, and also 10 more records that I am in search of. But first, we're going to start by what is playing in the background just right over here in my tape deck, and that is going to be Nun Slaughter by Hungarian Nuns, released in 2011 on Stygian Shadows Productions. This is the band performing in 2009, and it's got some really awesome deep cuts on here as well. I picked this up at a Levitation Festival. I forgot the name of the shop, but I'll leave it on screen there in case I do remember it. But I highly recommend checking this out as well. I've just got the standard clear edition tape. There was also a white edition tape, limited to about 200 copies worldwide. Either way, super awesome live release. Check it out if you can find one. Alright, well, we're going to start with today's episode by revisiting the previous episode. I'm not going to exactly go through all 10, but I did manage to find 3 from that previous episode. So if you want to see the other records that are on that list, I highly recommend going back and watching that video. I'll link to it down in the description below. But, of course, we have got some awesome records in my collection since then. One of those being Catatonia, Night is the New Day. This was released in 2011 on Peaceville Records. I have grabbed the 2025 reissue on Red with Black Smoke. None of the variants I had listed in the video, but still awesome nevertheless. Also, following that video, literally within a couple of days of that video going live, I actually did manage to make one of those come true. I'm talking about Opeth with Ghost Reveries, released in 2005 on Roadrunner Records. I actually have 2 copies of this. This is the only copy that I was able to find. I think the other one is buried in one of my crates somewhere. But I grabbed both the Clear with Black Smoke version, which was limited to 4,000 copies, as well, I believe it was a silver and black marbled edition, which was a 2025 reissue, also limited to 4,000 copies. So since then, I'm actually very happy to have this in my collection. And finally, the last release that I was able to get my hands on, and surprisingly one of the tougher ones, was I Declare War with Amidst the Bloodshed, released by Wax Vessel Records. I did specify in that I would take any variant. This is one of the SIG variants. I've also talked about it in a previous Wax Showcase video as well, so highly recommend going back and seeking that out if you can. Maybe we'll do another rehash on this in the future. But 3 out of 10 over the span of a year ain't too bad. And now that we've covered the releases that I do have in my collection now, let's get into 10 more that I'm looking for. We mentioned Opeth in the very beginning of that, but it's funny that I do have one more studio album of theirs that I'm missing. I am talking about Deliverance, released in 2002 on Music for Nations Records. Specifically, we are looking for the picture disc, released in 2004 with an unspecified limitation. We were looking for the black vinyl, released in 2008 with an unspecified limitation. There was also a 2012 white marbled variant, which was 1,000 numbered copies. I believe that was a Music on Vinyl press. And we're also looking for the 180 gram black vinyl, released in 2012, also with an unspecified limitations. Once again, with the previous video, I did mention I was searching for any of these. If I could find more than one, that'd be great. But honestly, not a bad little bit there. I'm surprised they didn't do a reissue for it in 2022 with the band's 20th anniversary of that record, so I don't exactly know why. Either way, fingers crossed it happens at some point down the line soon. Next up is Necrophagist with Onset of Putrefaction, released in 1999 on Noise Solution Records. The pressing that I am looking for specifically more relates to the 2004 Relapse Records pressing. I'm looking specifically for the orange with black splatter variant, limited to 800 copies, the transparent orange version, which had an unspecified limitation, the clear family and friends copy, which was limited to 100 copies, and the test pressing, I'm putting this as a wishful thinking note, released in 2004, only 10 copies exist. Funny enough, looking at the Discogs sale prices for a bunch of those variants actually shows that the test press variant was actually probably my last chance of getting it at a fair price. Some of these do fetch upwards of $300 or $400, so unfortunately I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I'm still holding out for Relapse to reissue it, so anyone from Relapse is watching, please help a collector out, please. Next up, we have Devin Townsend Project with Transcendence, released in 2016 on Inside Out Music. One of my very favorite albums from the very, very beginning of my metal journey. I was not collecting it this time. I do have a CD version from around that time frame, but also I am looking for a few select vinyl variants, including the gold copy, which is limited to 200 copies. It was an omerch.com exclusive. There was a clear copy at 200 copies as well. Picture disc, which was limited to 500 copies. It was an omerch.com exclusive, and it came with a signed print by Devin Townsend. I have a suspicion that one's probably going to be impossible to get. There was a blue copy, which was also 100 copies and an omerch.com exclusive. And finally, the most common variant of the ones I'm looking for is the silver variant, which was limited to 700 copies. I'm surprised I have not seen one of these floating around in the wild, but I have a suspicion it'll happen sooner or later. I just need to find a good deal on it. In the long run, some of them do fetch a significant amount. Much like the I Declare War record that I was talking about, there is going to be one Wax Vessel / Wax Mage release on this list. That is going to be Thy Art is Murder with Infinite Death, released in 2004 on Shock Australia, later reissued in 2021 by Wax Vessel Records. I will just say for that one, any signature variant that I can get my hands on, those were all limited to 50 copies each, and it does fetch quite a bit of money as well. I have a suspicion that I may or may not get that one. But again, I've seen weirder things happen. I'm going to step away from the metal for just a little bit. We're going to kind of move into the soundtrack sphere. I'm talking about Philip Glass with the original Candyman soundtrack, released in 1992 on TriStars Pictures Records. There were a handful of editions of these. The Silver Mirror, released in 2004, which was 500 hand-numbered copies, and the B Striped, which was 500 copies as well, also hand-numbered. Those were sent out at random with the purchase of this other version, which is the Yellow Honey Edition, which was 100 copies. All of those were released in 2014. There was also a 2018 reissue, which is both a clear with yellow smoke and a clear with yellow splatter variants, also limited to 100 copies. It has not been reissued since, and I don't know why. Again, some of these are just out of print, so it's a little hard to find, but I do love the original Candyman soundtrack. It is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and the soundtrack is nothing short of incredible as well. So if I can find a copy, that'd be awesome. Next up is a release that actually has not been officially pressed on vinyl since it came out. I'm talking about Ripping Corpse, Dreaming with the Dead, released in 1991 on Under One Flag Records. There's, of course, the standard 1991 black vinyl, which was on an unspecified limitation, though does fetch a significant amount of money. I think I've seen some copies go as high as $400 or $500. There were two bootleg versions, both a black and a clear vinyl, limitation unspecified. Again, I will take any of those three copies, and again, I'm surprised that no label has picked this up in the better span of about 30-ish years. We'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. If so, that'd be great. Again, following that sort of same sphere, not a metal pick per se, but also a record that is still out of print. We're talking about The Meteors with In Heaven, released in 1981 on Lost Souls Records. There were a few various country pressings from the original 1991 press. I will take any of those. All of them had an unspecified limitation. I'm also looking for the 2023 bootleg editions on both blue transparent and yellow transparent, also with an unspecified limitation. I had the pleasure of catching them not too long ago. I believe it was in January. I still had an excellent time. I would have loved to have gotten a copy of that signed if I can find one at a good price. So any of those would be fantastic as well. Now we're going to kind of get into some of the more tough choices. These ones are, again, just long out of print, and some of these bands have gotten to be very, very popular, so some of these are a little hard to find, especially in the modern day. First up, we have Immolation with Providence, released in 2011 on Scion Audio Visual Records. The band did do a couple of reissues on CD, and I believe there were some cassette reissues, both official and unofficial, that were done independently or through affiliated records. But also, we're looking for the standard edition, which had a limitation unspecified and came with the original cover. And then there was also a 2012 reissue with an alternate artwork that was exclusive to the 2012 San Diego Comic-Con, limited to 25 hand-numbered copies. Some of those may be a little tough to find, but again, who knows? I've seen weirder things happen. 2 more left on today's list. The next one also kind of follows into that death metal scene. I am referring to Dying Fetus with Grotesque Impalement, released in 2000 on Blunt Force Recordings. There were only 2 pressings of this. The original pressing in 2000, which was limited to 1,000 hand-numbered copies. And then there was a second pressing done on Relapse Records in 2011, which had an unspecified limitation. Both of those fetch in the change of about $150 to $200. So I think it's about time for a reissue, especially since it's been almost 15 years. And last but not least, we're going to pick a record that I have never seen go up for sale, ever. And if I could find a copy, that would be fantastic. I'm a big collector of this band. And I think it would be a really, really cool piece to have, since I know a bunch of people are fans of this band, and copies of this are not easy to come by. I'm talking about Knocked Loose and Damaged Goods with their split 7-inch, released in 2015 on No Luck Records. There were some cassette issues of this as well. Knocked Loose also did their own side of it as a cassette. I will put those as just a wishful thinking measure, but specifically I'm looking for the split. There were red copies, both 2015 and 2022. The 2015 was limited to 100 copies. The 2022 edition was limited to 5 copies. There was also a blue version, 2015 and 2022, much like the red copy, 100 copies and 5 copies respectively. And finally, there is the 2015 black copy, which was limited to 300, or 100 copies with a special tour edition alt cover. I don't know if that's in the same batch of 300 or if that is a separate 100, so we'll just kind of leave those indiscriminate. And then also there's a 2022 black reissue limited to 107 copies. It's funny, I got into the band right about as those reissues happened. I could not find where they dropped. I could not even find where the label had put them up at all. So I don't know. Hopefully it gets reissued again at some point. But that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. If you are watching all the way to the very, very end here, I challenge you to give me your 10 records that have eluded you for the longest amount of time. You can leave that in a comment, or you can do a direct response to me here on YouTube. I will be sure to watch them all, and hopefully we'll do this again next year. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay metal, and I'll see you next time.